Disarm him.
Hello there.
This is where the fun begins.
Hey there guys, Unofficial Star Wars here. Hope you're all doing well, and in this video we are going to be breaking down and explaining the end of The Mandalorian's recent episode, The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 7. What a game changer. Now based on the overall episode here itself, into the regards of a breakdown, things that you might have missed, an Easter egg is something that we already did here on the channel, so check that video if you haven't already. This video is more into the regards of the ending and how that sets things up for next week's finale of Season 3. And so, with The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 7, as it came to an explosive conclusion, finally revealing the true scale of the Imperial threat, the New Republic believed Palpatine's death was the beginning of the end for the Empire. As seen in the novels by Chuck Wendig's Aftermath trilogy, the Galactic Civil War lasted only another year after, as the Emperor himself initially lashed out in a fury before retreating to the planet of Jakku for a final battle with the forces of the Narset New Republic. And in the aftermath of the Battle of Jakku, the Republic signed a peace treaty on Coruscant. As we see at the beginning of this season, The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 1, strongly suggested that the Republic was foolish to believe the Empire was truly defeated, and at that would go and follow through with this peace treaty, and even more unwise to disarm. Set 5 years after the events of Return of the Jedi, 4 after the official end of the Galactic Civil War, it was revealed a rising Imperial presence on the Outer Rim. One key player was Giancarlo Esposito's Moff Gideon, a mysterious figure who had possession of the Darksaber, the legendary blade of the Mandalorian leadership and culture. Now though, The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 7, the latest episode of The Mandalorian, has finally revealed the true scale and threat of the Empire in this time period, setting up a dozen potential plots that could completely and truly get rid of the Empire, and dealing with the Mandalorians a terrible defeat. I believe that the first question that may pop up in people's heads as we see towards the end of this episode: why does Moff Gideon have taken over Mandalore as his new base? The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 7 reveals the Empire has taken Mandalore as a base, specifically Moff Gideon. This was foreshadowed in The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 3, when TIE interceptors had attacked Bo-Katan's gauntlet, her castle, her home, a fleet of ships lacking hyperdrive units and yet present in Mandalore's planetary system with no sign of a capital ship dropping them off. It's easy to see why Moff Gideon was drawn to claim Mandalore as a base. The Purge of Mandalore, or the Night of 1,000 Tears, disrupted the world's electromagnetic field, meaning it's impossible to scan the planet from space. He no doubt deliberately spread rumors that the planet had been poisoned and uninhabitable, and dangerous at that, ensuring nobody would ever want to return there. I also believe that he took home and made a base on Mandalore for the resources on Mandalore. The reason that Mandalorians have such powerful armor made out of Beskar is because the Beskar material and resource comes from Mandalore. And these new white troopers that are known as the third generation of dark troopers that are actual suits and actually have people inside of them is what made of Beskar, meaning that those suits are a lot more powerful than initially seen before in other variations of the dark trooper. And whether or not these white dark trooper suits are actually have like clones in them, or if they just have normal people out there that volunteered and work for the Empire, is kind of up in the air and unknown. I'll have a separate video out here on the channel talking a little bit more into specifics about these third generation variations of the Dark Troopers. Next up we see that Moff Gideon takes Din Djarin prisoner, taking him captive. What does he plan to do with him? Unfortunately for Moff Gideon, Din Djarin and Bo-Katan Kryze have learned that Mandalore could actually be reclaimed and is inhabitable and not poisoned. Moff Gideon had established his base around the Forge, a holy place for the Mandalorians, because it was where Beskar had first been shaped and molded. This was a logical choice for Gideon though, however, because the Forge will likely be situated near a rich deposits of Beskar, some of the first to be mined by the Mandalorians, and he has his own plans for this rare metal alloy. Sensing that the Mandalorians plan to reclaim their homeworld, now they have learned it could be lived upon, Moff Gideon sets a trap for Din and the other Mandalorians. The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 7 sees Moff Gideon go to surprising lengths to capture Din Djarin. It is unclear, though, why he expended so much effort at that. It may simply be to avenge himself, because Din was the one who had defeated him earlier into reclaiming the Darksaber, as we see in the Season 2 finale. More likely, though, it is that he believes Din Djarin to be unifying the different factors among the Mandalorians, these other clans and cultures. One who has helped bring opposing factions together. Gideon seems to be a plotter and a schemer too, so it's also possible that he believes Din useful for bait and using him as another trap to lure more Mandalorians in. He knows Grogu cares about Din Djarin and clearly has designs for the child still, as we have seen in the previous seasons of The Mandalorian. Discussing the unfortunate fate of Paz Vizsla. Why did Paz Vizsla have to die? His Mandalorian sacrifice and what it means. With Din Djarin captured, Moff Gideon believed that the Mandalorians would surrender to him, as they had done years ago, so they attempted to avert the purge of Mandalore. But the Mandalorians have been forged by their experiences, just as heat and pressure allows for the forging of Beskar, and they are even more resistant now than they were before. This time, all of the Mandalorians are agreed there will be no surrender, and they retreat from Moff Gideon and his forces, no doubt planning a counterattack. Tragically and sacrificially, Paz Vizsla recognizes the forces have arrayed against the Mandalorians are too great, and that his fellow Mandos need a chance to actually escape. Given he has the greatest firepower, he stays behind to cover their retreat. Paz Vizsla's heroic sacrifice feels perfectly in keeping with the Mandalorians' warrior culture. It also is remnants of some of the most powerful moments in Star Wars' old expanded universe, notably the death of Jedi Master Ganner Rysode in Matt Stover's novel Traitor, part of the original Star Wars New Jedi Order saga. However, that's not canon. His death will surely be remembered in songs of heroism for as long as Mandalorians endure. But of course, this being Star Wars, nobody ever seems to stay dead, so is he actually dead? Let me know what you think about it in the comments down below. We also see the Praetorian Guards, and Supreme Leader Snoke has connections to that. The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 7 marks the chronological premiere of 3 members of the Praetorian Guard, Crimson Clan warriors who seem to be the logical successors of the Emperor's personal guards as seen in the original trilogy, specifically Return of the Jedi. Trained in several forms of martial arts, including Teres Kasai, one that allows a non-Force user to go toe-to-toe with a Jedi, the Praetorian Guards are a true force to be reckoned with, as formidable as they may be, though Moff Gideon is clearly wary of wasting them. They only emerge when the firefight is over, when their skills will be most useful. The Praetorian Guards are destined to become part of the First Order, guardians of Supreme Leader Snoke himself, as seen in Star Wars The Last Jedi, a testament to the skills of Rey and Kylo Ren as well, of where these guards would make their final stand. Now, not necessarily towards the end of this episode, but earlier on, we see the full explanation of how Moff Gideon got the Darksaber from Bo-Katan. And in my thoughts and opinions, I feel like that this is a little bit of an underration for this episode. I mean, this has been a long-standing question for The Mandalorian and for Star Wars overall. The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 7 finally answers a mystery that's been long rumbling in the background since the Darksaber made its first live-action premiere at the end of the first season of The Mandalorian. It reveals how Moff Gideon initially acquired the Darksaber in the first place. It seems as though that Bo-Katan attempted to prevent the Night of 1,000 Tears, and by giving in and surrendering to the Empire, hoping her homeworld would be spared. Ironically, of course, this act of surrender means Moff Gideon would never have been seen as a legitimate owner of the Darksaber anyway. He never won it in battle. Moff Gideon, of course, betrayed Bo-Katan and initiated a planetary bombardment anyway, destroying and wiping away everything that Mandalore once was. It's been long clear that The Mandalorian Season 3 has been setting up things for a rematch between Bo-Katan and Moff Gideon, so maybe that's something we could see in the finale. This time, she knows Moff Gideon cannot be trusted, and she definitely will not be going to surrender. Given Moff Gideon was defeated by Din Djarin in Season 2's finale, and Bo-Katan is clearly a superior fighter, he's surely going to be bested. Maybe Din Djarin just will break out on his own anyway. Seen at the very beginning of this episode, Grand Admiral Thrawn has mentions that setup for the Ahsoka show and even the Mandalorian movie. But The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 7 confirms that Moff Gideon is only one of the Imperial leaders and warlords at that. He is part of what is called the Shadow Council, a body formed in a Red Wings Aftermath trilogy, but believed to have been defuncted after the Battle of Jakku. The scattered Imperial warlords are actually part of a conspiracy, coordinating and working together to appoint their efforts to bring back what once was the Empire. Only two of them are named though, however. Xander Berkeley's Gillard Pelion and Brian Gleason's Brundle Hux, the father of General Hux we see in the sequel trilogy. General Pelion also is an important character from the old Star Wars expanded universe, now a part of Legends, well, also canon, while Brandon Hux is the father of Armitage Hux from the sequel trilogy, a founder of the First Order. General Pelion is essentially the right-hand man to Thrawn, and so even more exciting, though, it is mentioned of Lars Mikkelsen's Grand Admiral Thrawn, who the Shadow Council believes to be their great hope, their overall leader. Thrawn was name-dropped in The Mandalorian Season 2, with Rosario Dawson's Ahsoka Tano, sensing that he is out there somewhere, a growing threat to the galaxy. Lucasfilm has already confirmed that Thrawn will have a major presence in the upcoming Ahsoka Disney Plus TV show, and he is expected to be the main villain of the upcoming Star Wars movie set within the Mandalorian era, being directed and written by Dave Filoni himself. It makes sense for Thrawn to be mentioned in this context as well, and particularly for him to be associated with Pelion. Captain Pelion was originally envisioned as the Watson to Thrawn's Sherlock Holmes, working under his command and learning from him as well. As I had mentioned, he's essentially the right-hand man to Thrawn. All of this really does mean that The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 7 is really the true return of the Empire. Star Wars Legends sets up for Thrawn as the heir to the Empire novels, and the same approach is being taken in the Disney canon as well. He will not fail, of course, but at this moment it's difficult to see how he will be defeated, especially with the New Republic unwisely choosing to disarm after the end of the Galactic Civil War. Meanwhile, he is working with multiple Imperial warlords as well, the Shadow Council, each of whom could all have their own significance going forward as Moff Gideon himself. The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 7 is sending the franchise in a thrilling new direction. This here is just about the most to an answer that we can really get for all the crazy stuff that happened in the recent episode of The Mandalorian. We don't really know where we're going forward with all of this, what Moff Gideon necessarily has up for Din Djarin and his capture, how he's going to be rescued, and everything like that, but we do have explanations and answers for maybe why Moff Gideon was on Mandalore, because of the rich Beskar alloy resources that are there. What an episode! Probably my favorite of the season so far. Let me know what you guys all thought about this in the comments down below. I would love to hear all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. What are you guys looking forward to seeing most in the finale of Season 3 of The Mandalorian? This here has been Unofficial Star Wars. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great one, guys. May the Force be with you as always. Peace out.